Hello and welcome to our Synthesia and Storyline 360 webinar today. We're going to be talking about how we can use these two fantastic tools together. You asked, we have answered, and we're very excited to see how these are going to work together. Before we get into it, I wanted to start things off with a quick statistic. Nearly 3/4 of learning and development leaders right now agree that learning and development has become more influential over the past year. There is more work being done in every company that they've pulled across every single different piece of content that you create. You're making more e-learning, you're making more webinars, you're making just tons more content in all sorts of different categories. And that is exciting because it means that, the learning mindset that we've been talking about in this industry for years is starting to come into the workforce in a big way. But there are downsides to being popular. It means that you are busier than ever. You've got more on your plate than ever. You are generating so much content. And so in that framework, I want to just take a second and say thank you to all of you for coming and spending part of your day learning with us, spending a little time on your own learning, learning some new practices for yourself. So my goal is that at the end of today, with that new learning, you're going to be a little bit faster. You're going to be making that beautiful content a little bit more quickly and with less effort. So I promise that the time that you put in here today, we're going to give back to you with a little bit of efficiency using these tools. So who am I? I'm Ellie. I am an e-learning and instructional designer. I've been in this field for about 6 years now. The entire time I've been doing this work, one of my driving and motivating factors has been finding ways to make this stuff fun, whether it's facilitating workshops like this or doing asynchronous e-learnings. I think that we all have a better time when things are just a little bit of fun. We're a little bit more engaged. And so that's really my goal here. I'm currently working with Synthesia, and my primary objective here is to help humans leverage the power of their avatar counterparts. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. How can you use our avatars to extend yourself and make that content sing even when you can't be in the room with your learners? And so that's what we're going to focus on. And I am joined today by Kevin. Can you introduce yourself, Kevin?
Sure thing. So thank you, Ellie. My name is Kevin Alster. I'm a learning strategist here at Synthesia. Working alongside Ellie. I've been in a learning experience for over 10 years, and I've really held a very wide range of learning roles, from content creator to learning designer, and focusing primarily on branded learning or learning products. Currently, I'm at Synthesia also helping humans to make better video, whether that's in product education or helping our clients figure out how to make video more easily or better, or scale their video strategy. We're here for you to show you this new tech. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Ellie.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm excited to have you on this call with me. So our mission, Kevin and I, and also you as our viewer, your mission today is to think strategically about using avatars in courses. Yes, we're excited about the tech. We want to get the tech into Storyline. We want to start making the thing. But before we get there, I just want to take a pause, and we're going to think a little bit strategically about which avatars we use and when we use them and why our learners respond to them. Because if we have that in mind going in, our content on the other end is going to be really good. And then we're going to spend the rest of our session kind of getting familiar with Synthesia and how to use these videos in articulate Storyline. So we will marry those two tools together. We'll have a little bit of fun with them later. So how are we going to complete our mission today? We're going to spend a little time. I can't help myself. We have to talk about the statistics. We got to talk about the science. We're going to explore the science of learning companions, talk about what a learning companion is and why they work. We're going to go ahead and talk about the guidelines for picking an avatar. So what are the kind of rules? What should you be considering when you're picking your avatar for your courses? And then we're going to get into that demo I mentioned. So I'm going to spend some time showing you kind of the basics, wading into the subject that is Storyline and Synthesia together. There's a lot to unpack there, more than we could ever do in this hour, but I'm hoping that we can at least start that journey today and explore a little bit. At the end, we'll do a Q&A and have a little wrap up. So we will kind of touch base with you at the end there. And kind of in that vein, little housekeeping, we just ask you all to please stay muted and drop questions in the chat if you have them. Kevin's here to help me out with that, and so he'll call things out, or we'll touch base with things that are more general at the end in our Q&A. I'm really excited to help you. I'm excited that you're excited. So please, just ping us if something comes to mind, and we'll do our best to help you out. So without further ado, let's get into it. And so we're going to start off, like I said, with a little bit of theory. Specifically, we're going to talk about personalization principle. If you're not familiar with Ruth Clark and Richard Mayer, they are two titans of the e-learning industry. They've done tons of research about the science in learning and what learners respond to when they're in these asynchronous online multimedia situations. This book is chock full of different principles and guides, but the one that I want to talk about today is personalization principle. This principle is basically just saying that humans are social and we love to be engaged in conversations. We like to talk, we're chit chatty. And that is something that's important when we're learning too. We learn better when we're having a conversation and when we're spoken to politely and informally. We don't always respond well when we're told to click here, do this next, or when we're kind of taken out of the situation. A learner should do this. Use words like you, use words like I, we. We're a group, we're learning together. This is a conversation. That's a really simple thing we can do. We talk a lot about this in some of our other sessions about script writing. How can you make your scripts good? But the piece that I want to harp on today that they also identified is that we like to learn from each other. We like to learn from other people. We like to learn from other coaches. And basically what they say is that adding a visual character can simulate a person-to-person interaction, and it increases learner engagement. If you can visualize the person who's talking to you, we feel more connected and like we're having a conversation. It can make you feel less isolated in the learning situation, and people can start to see those characters kind of as guides. And so it makes you just kind of relax into your learning setting. It makes you more engaged and comfortable. It makes you feel like you're not alone and that you're going through this with somebody. There's so many different examples of this. But there's just, there's something about when you're mastering a new task, having a friend to help, it really goes a long way. And so you might be thinking like, I'm not sure, or you might have a bunch of examples in your mind, but let me just show you a couple that have stuck with me in my different learning journeys. So these are 5 that just sprang to mind. One place that you see learning companions a lot is in video games. Video games will often introduce a helpful character at the beginning, kind of helps show you around and figure out how the controls work, where you're supposed to be going next, kind of what your objectives are. An example is Wheatley. He is from Portal 2. He shows up and kind of shows you what you should be doing so you're not just walking in circles, totally lost. He ends up evolving into a full-blown character in the game, but at the beginning, he's a helpful little companion who's kind of keeping you on track. Video games do this all the time and to great effect. We also see these a lot in children's shows, obviously. This is our most common deployment, probably. Children learn really well from characters. Here we have Steve from Blue's Clues. He's there to kind of coach you along, drop hints, ask guiding questions, pause and look at you. It really makes those TV shows very, very much conversational for the children. And children learning is not that different than adult learning. It really isn't. These things all go hand in hand. The one example of this, the animated characters that are really for adults, is Duo from Duolingo. If you're not familiar with this owl, he has motivated millions of people to learn new languages. It's one of the most successful gamified apps for learning a new skill, which is all sorts of different languages. And the thing that works about Duo is he's highly emotional. He's got a whole cast of other characters, but he's kind of your guide through all of it. And how you're doing makes Duo react. So he gets excited when you're doing really well, and Duo gets sad when you stop taking your lessons. And if you've ever gotten the "you made Duo sad" email, I've never jumped on my phone to like do a German lesson faster than when a little cartoon owl told me he was sad. Like, that's an amazing emotional motivator. It gets you compelled to keep learning and keep doing that work. So those are all kind of animated examples or computer generated examples. We often see learning companions though on video. Udemy and LinkedIn both do great examples of this, where they hire coaches, they hire subject matter experts to film these videos for them where they're explaining things. Here I've got an example of a woman who's going to be teaching me to become a linear algebra master. I don't anticipate actually doing this anytime soon, but if I were to jump in and have to learn algebra again, I know that a PowerPoint deck full of equations would not help. I would need someone there helping me along, and they provide that in Coach. And then the other example is Peloton. Peloton is full of coaches, literal coaches, trainers who are there to motivate you, keep you moving, teach you about your form, teach you about your breathing, and help you get to the end of that literal race, feeling better, feeling like you accomplished something, and really activating your emotions. Without these characters, all of these different learning experiences become much harder. You are alone, you are struggling, you are muddling your way through it. But when you have a learning companion to both project your own frustrations and empathize with, learning becomes a lot easier. It really makes a big difference. And so I'm curious if any of you have examples that you have thought of. If you would drop them in the chat, tell me about who comes to mind when you start thinking about these companions who you can empathize with and build learning with. And Kevin, if you're seeing anything, feel free to shout them out, let us know, or if any are coming to your mind, that would be fantastic to hear as well.
Sure thing. I see that. I think it's because you've mentioned Steve from Blue's Clues. We got someone here who's written in that they're a fan of Dora the Explorer. So I guess you really can't have one without thinking about the other. The one that comes to mind for me is Clippy. Clippy, I don't know if you remember, but Microsoft back in whatever 90s had a small paperclip who would pop up. I think he epitomizes what we talk about now as just-in-time learning, where it's, hey, I see you're writing a letter, or hey, I see you're trying to print a document, and it would feed you those facts or give you a checklist. Back then, it wasn't always the most helpful person, and I clicked on animate to make them do some fun stuff. But Clippy it comes to mind. Also, I think of the Headspace narrators, where you have different embodiments of the different activities. I know they're trying to get me to meditate if I'm doing the one time a week that I do a sport or something like that. And then finally, I think I'm also thinking of LinkedIn learning courses where you have the literal subject matter expert as a guide. It's making me think of Cody or Masterclass, where it's not just a learning companion, but really they're the expert, and they have stories and experiences to tie into help you learn or help solidify different concepts as you're going. So yeah, just to name a few, those are who comes to mind, but certainly they're wonderful learning companions.
Yeah, and the list is endless. Like, we're constantly encountering learning companions. We're constantly seeing guides, flow from the progressive commercials in the US. Like, she's a character, but she's teaching you the entire time. Like, learning companions are everywhere. They're coaching us, they're teaching us, they're helping us form memories about products and about what we're supposed to be learning all the time. And another example is us. We are learning companions right now to each other and also to our learners, because we're here to kind of coach you through it. But there is one massive drawback for us, or for Cody, or for Duo, and we're really high production. We're high maintenance people, Kevin. We need a lot of investment to get this out. We have to write scripts, we have to set up recording time, we have to get our cameras out, we got to get our microphones out, and that's for the people. If you're doing something like Wheatley or Duo, you have to have a whole team, or the Headspace characters you mentioned. They're so beautiful because they've got a whole team of people who are working on that all the time. It's high production, high payoff, but that's just not accessible to everybody. And that's why I'm so excited about our avatars as learning companions. I think it's an effortless thing. And so this is a place that we can kind of spot in. You can see here, I've got Rosie here. This is a screenshot from a course that we made about food allergies, where she is explaining to people the importance of understanding the nuances of food allergies and how to talk to people about food allergies without being insensitive. It's an emotional thing because it's a scary thing. And she kind of talks people through this. She even has some conversations with other avatars in this course, and I'll publish this for people to see later. But you can see, looking just at this screenshot, this doesn't look that different than the Udemy or even the Cody little shots that I had there, because this is the same idea. We've got a person here who's with you, who's coaching you. So you're getting that production value, but you're not having to put in the energy. There was no studio. Rosie didn't stand in the studio. There was no set. There was no microphone. There was no camera. And so that's why this works so well. And that's why putting them into our e-learning courses is really like a delightful pairing that I'm very excited about showing you all today. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how do we get here? How do we get these hosts into Storyline? But before we get into that piece, I just want to talk about kind of where we might be going. I I am sure you all are ideating about all the possibilities of these two tools together, and I have been too. We can do anything a character you've ever made in Storyline before has done. We can do those with our avatars. They just take different levels of work and engagement. And so branching scenarios where you are choosing your own adventure with this avatar and moving through a conversation, potentially. Conversation modeling, where we're hearing them practice conversations for things like customer service or just difficult conversations like fundraising, things like that. We can also do choose your own character. So you can pick an avatar you identify with and put them into different situations. We can do that. And then we can do things like course hosts and so much more. Today, we're going to focus on the course hosts. Course hosts are mostly talking to you, explaining things. It's less of the conversational pieces that you might encounter in a branching scenario, but it's a great foundation to start with. It's an easy way to start inserting these characters into your content, building it quickly. And then from there, you can go and kind of level up. And we will be building more webinars and things in the future with all of these different interactions. But for today, we're going to focus on picking that right avatar and getting them introduced to your learner as a host, kind of the person presenting that information to you. And so let's go ahead and we're going to start kind of getting into it. We're going to start first by choosing and generating our first host. And to do that, I want to talk about a little bit of principles, things you should be considering before we get directly into the tool. So what should you be thinking about when you're picking your host? There's four main topics that I want you to kind of keep in mind. First is your learner profile. If you're at the point where you're starting to do your development, you're working on your course, you're in Storyline, you've already done your needs analysis, you've already checked out who you're making this course for, you know your audience. Keep them in mind when you pick your avatar. Often we want to pick somebody that your audience can identify with. What are the demographics of your learning base? Are they male or female? Are they younger and older? Where in the world are they located? Things like that. Knowing where they come from, who they are, picking a host that kind of relates to all of them, that they could picture being in the office with them or on site with them, that's going to help a lot. So keep your learner profile in mind first. Second of all, industry, what kind of space are you working in? Is this a very corporate setting? Do we need somebody who's in a very formal outfit? You can see we've got more business-centric outfits, but we've also got more informal t-shirts and denim jacket type avatar outfits. That's going to come across differently in those spaces. And so be kind of mindful of that. So we've got everybody from your very corporate, very professional Fortune 500 to very artistic, very free-flowing and fun, the other end where they're a little bit less formal. Think of that. Next is going to be subject matter. This comes in a little bit more when we get into the voices, which we'll touch on, but you want to be thinking about, is this a really serious topic? Is this something like CPR training, HIPAA training? Do we need to have a tone that's very intense? Then we've got some avatars who both look very formal and also speak, have avatar voices that are very formal and meant to present things in a very factual way. That's good. That's going to kind of model and match your content and work well for you. The last piece is branding. And so this one's kind of, I think people don't always think of this immediately, but making sure that your avatar doesn't clash with your branding content is important. You can see here, my slide is actually a good example of this. I don't have any avatars who've got red and yellow shirts because I wanted to pick the avatars who match my nice blue, calm branding. If you're using lively colors, then yes, we've got lively outfits for them too, but just think about who matches kind of the look and feel of your brand kit. And so on that note, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick an avatar. And we're going to do that here. So, Kevin, this is a fun exercise for us. I'm going to have you kind of quiz me with a little bit of content, a situation that I need to be picking an avatar for, and I'm going to see if I can find the right one for you. Go ahead and give me a scenario of a piece of content you might be working on or you can imagine working on.
Sure thing. So I'm going to grab a couple details from our customer base, and let's see if you can pick the right avatar based on this cocktail that I'm going to give you. So the client is training for a tech startup in Australia. They're geared at teaching girls to code. Most of the learners are young and female. They're international students, and the content I see that you're scrolling through, so I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. The next detail is that the content is going to be more of a gamified manner, so pretty lighthearted, pretty energetic and easygoing. And then their brand color scheme is orange and pink.
Orange and pink. Okay, so it's funny, working reverse. I'm like, okay, I feel like a beautiful mind moment trying to find the right person. I tend to, based on what you were saying, I'm thinking female avatars for female girls who code. That's super
Hmm.
cool. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to eliminate Jonathan here. He doesn't seem like the right voice for us. We have a lot of female avatars who look like they could know some things about coding. I always do love an Evelyn. She's very serious, but I don't know. She seems like she's a little too formal for what we're looking for. I do like Olivia a lot. She always seems very confident, and I think I could learn almost anything from Olivia, but she's wearing this blue dress, and you said that we're working with orange and pink.
And
And
also we're,
so
we're, we're
I'm,
we're thinking about a startup as well. So the thing that
yeah,
comes to mind in
right?
our startup is blue jeans or something like that. Yeah.
We are a little bit formal, I say in my t-shirt. It is, our ladies have kind of a good range. I would say that, Rose is actually pretty good. She's got this fun shirt on. She looks like she's kind of in a fun setting. But I think that if I were to pick somebody, and I think Maya is also good. She also would, I think, resonate with young learners. But I'm actually thinking that Rosie might strike the right tone, because I think, first of all, she's wearing a pink jacket, so she's on brand. She's in her color scheme. She's a little older maybe than the learner base, so she's going to have the sense of authority. Like, I know things about coding. I've been coding for quite a long time, and she's wearing like the pink blazer, so like she's professional. She's like, I could do a job anywhere, but she's also like not super formal. So I'm a big fan of Rosie. I tend towards her a lot. Let's throw like a pink background behind her and see, like, could this potentially work? Pink, orange. I think Rosie could be one of our gals, but again, like, there's lots of options here. And the other thing that you mentioned she's from Australia. The company's from Australia. What I'm going to do here is I am going to give her an Australian voice, because that is going to align with the brand a little bit better and maybe make her resonate a little bit more with learners. So let's see here. Does this sound right?
Welcome. Am I the right avatar for the course you're making?
Love an Australian accent. Always good. Were you able to hear
And
that one this time?
I was able to hear that. And Ellie, just a quick jump in. I'm sure some of our viewers are wondering, oh, we've seen the avatar moving, but it doesn't look like they're moving here. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Great point, Kevin. So this is our preview functionality. We're in studio right now. And so Rosie's not going to move. Rosie won't move until after we've generated her, because what will happen is, this is the magic, the secret sauce, is that our AI will basically match that script and those words and the voice that we picked, and it's going to map that to her face. And so that's what happens when we generate our videos, is it starts to match up those features. It's also going to move her hands according to kind of the natural way that they would in this sentence. So right now, Rosie doesn't look too exciting, but I promise when she's published, it's going to be quite good. So that's one way you could choose an avatar. Again, thinking about that learner profile, the industry that you're working in, the subject matter that you're covering, and then that branding, that's going to lead you to pick a good avatar. And so I've already picked our avatar for today, who we're going to be working with. And I'm going to show you real quick a preview of kind of where we're going now. You've seen kind of this choosing process. Before I show it to you, this is a customer service course that is for a East Coast based tech firm. They are being coached on how to support clients who are having trouble. And it's a predominantly male company. It's a little bit more formal than, say, our office or the West Coast offices that I'm used to working in, a little more buttoned up. So we're looking for someone a little formal, and it's a pretty diverse workforce. So with that in mind, I picked an avatar for this, one of my other favorite ones. And you can see a preview here of kind of where we're going. This is what our course that we're going to build looks like. And so I'll just kind of say a little bit as its intro, but then I'll let you watch it. So this is our course. You can see the content on the left, and our intro video plays here, and our host is going to introduce our content.
As one of our customer service representatives, you naturally know a lot about our company and offerings. Paired with compassion, that knowledge allows you to help customers successfully navigate through their troubles. But what happens when those challenges get extra tricky, even for a seasoned professional like you? In this course, we'll answer that question by diving into 4 complex customer service scenarios. You'll learn to approach each situation with expert skill and sensitivity, propelling your customer service talents to the next level. I'm Matt, and I'll be guiding you through the 4 scenarios. Click next to jump right into the first one.
And so that's Matt. He's going to act as the host for today. He's going to be the person that kind of guides our learners through our content. And so you can see here, I've got a whole branching or a whole menu of content that they're going to work through in this course. Matt would appear at multiple points in this process. So he would be introducing different exercises. He'd be kind of coaching them, giving them tips and tricks in a format that isn't reading it on a screen or having to do everything as a flip card interaction. Matt's going to be able to assist me and give my content a voice and give them a face to relate to. I can also use Matt through all the rest of my courses. So next month, I put out a new course that's on a new customer service topic, and Matt is going to be the person that they know as the face of my customer service training. And so that's kind of what we're looking for here. Matt's friendly, he's relatable, he looks like he works with tech people in startup in tech industry. He's easy to relate to. I think that some of our other people might not fit in this role quite as well, but that's the thing. You get to play matchmaker. You get to set some people up with your content, and it's a lot of fun. So this is where we're aiming for. And so without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and kind of jump into that. We're going to go ahead and learn about inserting and editing your video into Storyline. And so before we get to Storyline, we still have to be in studio a little bit. And so you can see here, I've got my Matt video here. I've already made this one. We're not going to get really into the mechanics of using Studio today. That's not our objective. Our objective is to kind of show you how once you produce these videos, we can get over into Storyline. If you're interested in learning more about the basics of Synthesia Studio, we have several courses on that. You can go take our Intro to Synthesia courses or our Intro to Templates courses. They're going to get you to the point that I am right now really quickly, get you up and running, and then you can kind of run off from there. But here, I'm assuming that you all are fantastic, seasoned users here, and we're just going to do a couple things to make sure that our content comes out the right way. So you can see I've already made my video. I've got Matt here, moves through 4 slides. What I need to do is, I've tested this. I feel confident that my video is right. What I'm ready to do is to generate my video. And so I'm going to click Generate Video here. And when you generate a video that you're going to put into Storyline, what I want to remind you of is that it's important that you turn off your captions. This is usually auto-enabled on your account, and captions are good. I'm not saying we're throwing away captions. What I'm saying is that we are going to turn this off because we're going to import our captions in Storyline separately. Synthesia makes this super easy. So I'm going to save and process my video here. And I'm going to do an easy bake oven trick where I show you, because instead of waiting for this to generate, I'm going to show you, this is my generated video here, our customer service conversation introduction. It's been generated, it's ready to be exported. And so what I need to do here is get my video, and I also want to capture my SRT download. So this is our closed captions download. This is really valuable. We want to make sure that we're making accessible content. We want to make sure we're giving people options. Even if they can't listen to Matt talk, we want to make sure they're getting that valuable information he's imparting on them. And so what I would do is I would download my video and I would export my captions here. So I have my 2 files. So I'm ready to start working over in Storyline. And so that's where we're going to kind of get going here, is we're going to finally jump into a Storyline file. I love working in Storyline. You can see here, I've already mapped out a lot of my content. I know where this is going. This wasn't a randomly generated video. There's been lots of scripting and lots of storyboarding done ahead of time. So we're going to start with this blank canvas, but I'm just going to work on this first slide today, our getting started slide. So first thing you need to do, and I've actually jumped a little bit ahead here, is you need to make sure that your canvas is set up right. I do this before I set up all of my other slides, just so everything comes out the right way. But what is important here is that you go to the Design tab and you check out the slide size setup. When you click on this, you're going to see that you have different options. Storyline defaults normally to the 4:3 setup, which is a much boxier setup. In today's world, I would say that almost always, even if you're not using video on your screens, you're going to be wanting to use a 16:9 setup. This is the shape of most monitors, and as monitors and TVs get more and more powerful, this is going to give you a better resolution for your content. So make sure that it's set to be 16:9. You can also set this to be your current default size from the setting. So if you're realizing, I have to do this every time, you can always select this default size. Mine is set as that already, but just know that this is going to ease up your building a little bit. So I've got a 16:9 canvas, which is where we're going to start from. And from here, it's pretty easy to get our video in here. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Insert, and you're going to see that you have a media menu here. We're going to look at our video menu. You have two options here. You can insert your video from file or insert from website. You can also pick things that are either from your webcam or library, but we're not interested in those today. You can embed content from Synthesia directly in here, and it would show up in a player that would sit on your page. If you're interested in that, that's great. That's really very much like a video embed. Here we're going for a more organic, baked in feeling. And so I'm going to actually insert my MP4 file that I had just downloaded here. And you'll see it shows up and it immediately perfectly fits in there because we set that up to be its 16:9 setup. And so working with video and Storyline can sometimes be a little tricky. Storyline is really heavy on the animations and layers and states and things like that. Usually you're adding a lot of different visual content here. In this case, we're really only adding one piece of content, which is video. And you'll see it shows up down here in my timeline. And I can see as I kind of scroll on that it ends at the right place. One word to the wise, quick tip, occasionally Storyline will add time to the end of your video for some reason. All you need to do when that happens is just drag it to the front of your playhead and it's going to be set up so it's filling that timeline the right way. But just take a quick peek at the end of your video to see that it ends at the right place before you move any further. The next thing I want you to do is to preview your video. And you can do this two ways. We have a preview function up here in the top left. If I hit play, you're going to see my video starts playing and I'm going to see Matt come up on my screen. Everything is working the way that I want it to.
As one of our customers,
you can also do that from the timeline down here. We have the play feature down here. Sometimes people forget this is here. This is helpful because it actually plays along the timeline so you can see where you are in your content at any given moment. And so those are your two ways that you're able to preview your content. And so I've got my video in here now. What next? From here, with my layout the way that it is, honestly, I could potentially just walk away. I've built the intro to my course, but there's a lot of things going on in the current setup that are going to make it less of a positive user experience. And so we want to make sure that we are setting up the video to be controlled by the learner in a way that's intuitive and that doesn't kind of compete with our need to show them this content. Specifically, I want to make sure that our pause and play is correct. And so to do that, I want to make sure that I've set up the controls right. If I go to preview my slide right now, you're going to see that my player has a couple things going on that I'm not a huge fan of. You're going to see that I have,
as one of our customer service representatives,
a timeline down here that's playing, and I have a pause play button. I also have a skip button, which is going to take me to the next slide. With this, we've kind of set our learner up to be distracted, first of all, by lots of things on the screen, but also jump around and past our content in a way that we don't want. What I want to set this up to be is an organic intro video that starts playing when the course starts, and they don't have a lot of control over. And so I'm going to take away a handful of different options here. I'm going to take away their ability to skip it using these two icons on the bottom. And I'm also going to take away their ability to pause and play it. Because it's a very short video. It doesn't need to be chunked up. It's something that they should be able to see just in one sitting very quickly. And so how do I do this? First, let's go ahead and tackle our next and back buttons. And the easiest way to take these off is you're going to need to take off these trigger slides, and you can just select them and hit delete. When our triggers are gone, there's no way for the slide to move forward. So that's going to take away that option. The other way that you can do this is to actually take them off of the player itself. And this is done on the slide level by moving our video, right-clicking on our slide, and editing the properties of our slide. Slide properties is where you're able to kind of change how this looks in the player for this specific instance. My next slide is going to have interactions on it. It's going to need them to advance themselves through that content. This one doesn't. And so I want to take these off for this specific slide. And you'll see slide navigation and gestures. I can take off preview and next for both the swipe and the buttons and hit OK. I can put my video back. And now when I go to preview the slide, you're going to see I don't have those forward and next back buttons. They are here. They cannot skip over my content. So that takes care of one piece of this. I still have my my video controls. So you can see on the player that we still had that playhead that was playing at the bottom. In order to get rid of that, so users can't jump around or pause and play using that, we actually have to edit the player. And so what we're going to do is up here in the top right by publish, you see the option for player. What we're going to do here is under player controls, we're going to change up some different features. Specifically, we're going to turn off our play pause. That's going to get rid of that play pause button so they're not able to click on that and stop our video while it's playing. You might think that this is a feature that you want enabled, but unfortunately, typically you're not going to need this. On most slides, it's not a video. They don't need to be able to pause the interaction. So it's actually a distraction and kind of a confusing piece of UX, no matter what you put on your slide. So we're going to disable that for now. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to change our seek bar. I don't think it's a bad idea to give your learners a visual cue about the length of a video. That's always a nice thing to have. But in this case, our seek bar is interactive. It says allow user to drag seek bar. What we're going to do instead is we're going to set this to be seek bar is read only. And what that means is it's going to show that seek bar progressing as the video progresses, letting them know this isn't a long video. Don't worry, it's almost over. And so they'll have that visual cue. The video is playing, the video is almost over, but they won't be able to interact with it. And so we're going to hit OK on that. And we're going to go ahead and preview again this slide. And now you see my video plays, but I can't mess around with our seek bar or stop it. And for that reason, I'm going to stop our preview. And I'm going to do it one more time and show you one thing that sometimes slips past people's minds when they're thinking about the UX of our videos. First, you're going to go ahead and preview this. Again, I can't interact with this, but when Matt starts talking, I'm going to click on the screen.
As one of our
Storyline is set up to have a feature that if a user clicks on a video, it pauses the video. This can be an okay thing to leave. I think as far as the UX, it's very clean. It's not confusing to people. If you want them to still have that play pause functionality, this is a piece that you could leave in. I personally am not a huge fan of this. And when we get further down the road and we start building interactions into our videos, this is going to be a competing factor for the content that we're putting on top of it. So we might put a card flip next to Matt that he's explaining. This is going to compete with that. And there's a really easy, elegant fix for this that we can do right now. So I'm going to close this. And what I'm going to do is there's no setting here that I can change. Instead, what I'm going to do is insert a hotspot. And I'm going to drop it over the top of my video. And it's looking a little funny right now, but I promise you this hotspot is currently covering the entire video. It's just showing you the top corner here. But this hotspot now, without any triggers on it, is going to be keeping people from clicking on this content. And so we're going to go ahead and hit preview this slide. And now when I click on my page, nothing happens. The reason being that this is now a hotspot that has no trigger associated with it. So there's nothing it can be, it's not doing anything. It's just me clicking away and there's no action for it to complete. And so with a hotspot, we've managed to disable another piece of confusing UX. So this is a really great pro tip for working with video. The last thing that I want to show you is a really essential one, and one that I implore you to always keep in mind and to always do, and we've made it so easy with Synthesia, is to add in your captions. This is one of my favorite things about Storyline. They've gotten really serious about accessibility and compliance in the last few years. And so they've made a really useful tool in here. If I move my hotspot and click on my video for just one moment, you're going to see that I have options up here. And up here, right in the middle of everything, they have the option to edit your captions. I'm going to click on the edit captions and kind of show you what this menu looks like. If you're ever working with video that isn't ours and doesn't handily churn out these SRT files for you, there is a way for you to manually enter in your own captions. And this is very interesting. It actually has already managed to bring mine in, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete the captions that are in here. I'm going to show you how I get these in here. So very, very simple. You can just import a caption and you can pull up that SRT file that we made earlier today and drop it in. And this is going to automatically sync our captions with the screen. And you can see they show up here, they look nice. You can move through your captions or zoom out and kind of see them all at once. It's a really useful tool. So if I
A
hit
lot
play
about our
here,
company and offerings.
you'll see it's showing me how these match up for each of the different blocks. And so I'm a huge fan of this. It makes it extremely easy to make your content accessible. Now, when I go back to preview my video again, you'll see that I have a closed caption button here. And if I turn it on,
As one of our customer
Matt
service
has
representatives,
very nice
you
looking
naturally
captions.
know a lot about our company and offerings. Paired
This is a fantastic way to keep your content accessible. Make sure that if people can't listen for whatever reason, whether they're in a busy office or they have impairments that are keeping them from being able to hear your content, they're able to engage with it still and get the effect of our avatars and our coaching companions. They still get that informal language, that coaching, even if they can't hear it. And so that is kind of my two big things. From here, this is kind of the basics, right? We've put a video in here, and with these handful of little pieces, these handfuls of tips and tricks, you can start to insert content into your storyline courses. From here, you can build buttons, you can build charts, you can build card flips, you can build all sorts of different interactions on top of this content. So this is just the beginning of getting these videos in here, but these are the things that you need to keep in mind, because again, Storyline isn't a video player, it's not a video format. This is what you need to keep in mind when you're working with our videos in here. And now you've added a course host to your content in minutes. It takes just minutes to get this new character in here who's introducing your content, setting you up. And now the rest of your content can flow from that beautiful introduction that Matt did. You include him a few more times as they move through the content, and you've got a great piece of multimedia that keeps your content from getting super text heavy, from getting monotonous, from having to rely too much on button interactions. You've got just this lovely little companion who's going to keep people company as they learn your content. So relatively straightforward for today.